Hey guys, it's Jen. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another video. I am super excited to share today's video with you because we are going to be making Ina Garten's top 5 chicken recipes. This video was inspired by a video that Food Network posted on YouTube, so I will link the original video down below, but I thought this was a fun idea for a video, and so I will be making these same recipes today and I will be letting you know how they turned out and whether I'll be making them again. So I have to tell you guys that I have been a fan of Ina Garten since way back in the day. I actually went to college in the early 2000s and Food Network was always on in my apartment while I was in college. I was watching Ina and Giada and Rachel Ray and Iron Chef, and I have always loved to cook since I was a kid, but when I got out on my own, I could really try out these different techniques and recipes, so I had a lot of fun doing that when I was in college. But here's what we're going to make today. We're going to make some buttermilk fried chicken, an engagement roast chicken, as well as a skillet roasted lemon chicken. The other two dishes are a lemon and garlic roast chicken with bacon on top, so delicious. And then last but not least, a recipe for Parmesan chicken with a simple salad. I also wanted to mention that today's video is in collaboration with Stephanie over at the channel Home Sweet Stephanie. She is so sweet and reached out to me to collaborate on a video, and I said yes, I would love to because I love watching her What's for Dinner videos. She also posts grocery hauls, and I know that if you guys enjoy my cooking videos, you'll enjoy hers as well. So make sure that you go over to see what she's got in store for you today. She's also going to be cooking some Food Network recipes. Tell her I sent you, and if you are coming over from Stephanie's channel, welcome. My name is Jen. I hope that you subscribe and stick around for lots more fun food content over here. Okay, so the first recipe that we're going to get started with is this engagement roast chicken. So I just have a chicken that I grabbed from Costco. This one, it happens to be organic, but you can use whatever whole chicken that you can find in your grocery store. I went ahead and rinsed that out in the sink, patted it dry, and I just have it in a large roasting pan here. That's what I'm going to pop it into the oven in. So for this chicken, you just want to make sure that you season it really well. You have to always remember when you're cooking whole birds, whether it's a turkey or a chicken, that there is quite a lot of meat, and so don't be shy with the seasoning, otherwise your chicken might turn out quite bland. So make sure that you season the inside of the chicken liberally with salt and pepper, and then I'm going to stuff this with some onions as well as some garlic, and then we're going to drizzle olive oil on the outside of it and roast it in the oven at 425 degrees. Once the chicken is seasoned, I'm going to tie up the legs together with some kitchen twine. I usually just get this on Amazon. I buy a roll and it lasts forever. It's super inexpensive and you can use it for lots of things in the kitchen. So I'll link the one that I have down below, and any other kitchen tools that I use in this video, I always try to link those in the description box if you guys have questions about specifically what I use or where I got them. For this, I'm also going to make sure that I tuck the wingtips under the bird, just kind of fold them over and tuck them in so that they don't burn. And then I'm also going to scatter some cut up lemons and some onions in the roasting pan around the chicken. Now, if I had to do this again, I would definitely use a smaller roasting pan. My onions did end up burning a little bit in the oven, so just keep that in mind. Okay, so I'm just seasoning the onions and the lemon with some olive oil and salt and pepper. And like I said, I wish I would have had more to put in the pan or would have used a smaller pan. But here's what it looked like before I put it in the oven. I actually ran out of onions while I was making this, and I didn't realize I was so low, but I was kind of already too late. So here's what it looked like when it came out of the oven. I roasted it at 425 for about an hour and a half. Once it came out, I removed it to a platter, covered it with foil, and let it rest while I made the gravy. One of the things I really like about this Cuisinart roasting pan is that it can go right from the oven to the stovetop and you can make your gravy in it. Here is what the chicken looked like. I made some baked potatoes and some French onion soup with that. Really good and tender, but you'll actually see the next roast chicken recipe that we make turns out a lot better. So while I don't think I would make this particular roasted chicken recipe again, I'll definitely be making the other one. Okay, so next up is a recipe for buttermilk fried chicken. You guys are going to need to take an extra dose of Lipitor if you make this meal, but it was really good. It was just like a really heavy meal, but what else is fried chicken, right? So for the brine for this chicken, we're actually going to not necessarily a brine, I guess, but we're going to marinate it in buttermilk, and that really helps to tenderize the chicken. The thing that is really neat about this recipe is that it calls for boneless chicken breasts, which I actually prefer. So what I did was I put my chicken breasts in a container with salt and pepper, buttermilk. I sliced up a jalapeno and put that in there, as well as a shallot. And then I just stirred everything around with the fork, making sure that everything was coated. You want to refrigerate this for at least 8 hours, but not more than 24 hours, just so that the chicken will get infused with that buttermilk flavor and the onion and the jalapeno. It was so good. This recipe is definitely a keeper, like I said, but it is a heavy meal. So when it's time to eat, I'm going to go ahead and make the flour mixture for the fried chicken. So I have some all-purpose flour in my bowl, and I'm going to mix that with some baking powder, some smoked paprika, cayenne pepper, and celery salt. And I also added some salt and pepper, and that is the flour seasoning that will dredge the chicken in before we fry it. Okay, so I have my Dutch oven heating on the stove with some canola oil to fry the chicken in, and now we're going to coat this. We're actually going to double dip it. So we'll take the chicken from the marinade into the flour mixture, back into the buttermilk, and then back into the flour before you fry it. That helps give it a really thick, crispy coating on the outside. And I just went ahead and did this with a fork so that I didn't get my fingers all coated with flour and buttermilk. It's just as easy. When and if I do make this recipe again, I will probably butterfly my chicken or cut it in half, because even though this chicken was really good, I did think that the chicken breast was maybe a little bit too thick, and it would have been easier to eat if the chicken itself would have been a little bit thinner. So if you guys are wanting to make any of these recipes, I'll have them all linked down below. One thing I actually did, which was kind of a bonus and the recipe didn't call for, was I actually also breaded the jalapenos that were in the brine and fried those, and oh my gosh, those were so good. So if you make this, I would definitely recommend doing that. But once your oil is heated to 350 degrees, and you can definitely use a candy thermometer if you want clipped onto the side of your pan, then you can put the chicken in and fry it for probably around 5 to 7 minutes per side, I would say. Chicken is really one of those things that depends on how hot your oil is, how thick the chicken is, and so I can't really give you an exact time. You'll just have to use a thermometer if you are not sure. Here's what those little jalapeno coins looked like after we fried them. I actually served them with some ranch dressing and they were super good. Here is the chicken after it came out of the hot oil. I just put it on a rack to cool. We had this with some mac and cheese. I also had some leftover mashed potatoes in the fridge. I made some chicken gravy and some green beans, and there is no way that I could eat all this, but it was a really great dinner. I definitely think the combination of the buttermilk marinade plus the flour and seasoning that this recipe has is a true winner. So if you're looking for a good fried chicken recipe, I would definitely recommend this one, and I will probably be making again next time I want to make fried chicken. Okay, this next recipe is a recipe for Parmesan chicken. I have to say this one was probably my favorite out of the bunch, and I will definitely be making it again. The recipe starts with pounding out some boneless, skinless chicken breasts, so I just like to do that in a Ziploc bag with a meat mallet. I got this one from IKEA, but you can get them super inexpensively, and it's a good kitchen tool to have, not only for pounding meat, but I also use it to pound nuts and spices as well. But if you pound these in the Ziploc bag, there's really no mess and it's super easy. So this recipe calls for a salad on top. So this isn't necessarily a traditional chicken parm where you're making like a marinara sauce and things like that. It's a crusted chicken breast with a salad on top that has a lemon vinaigrette, and it's really, really good. So I have some spring mix here, and I'm just giving that a wash in my salad spinner to make sure that it's clean. I'm going to spin it dry, and then we'll go ahead and make the vinaigrette for the salad. So for the lemon vinaigrette, you will need a 1/4 cup of freshly squeezed lemon juice. That's about 2 lemons. You'll also need 1/2 cup of olive oil, 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt, and 1/4 teaspoon of ground black pepper. I did add a little bit of honey to this vinaigrette. That's optional. I always like to add a little bit of honey, especially when I'm making like citrus vinaigrettes, because I think it cuts the bitterness of the lemon a little bit and just gives it a more well-rounded flavor. But you can just combine all the ingredients in the bottom of a salad bowl, whisk it together. And then what I like to do to make this ahead of time is I actually just make the vinaigrette in the bottom of the bowl, and then I pile my salad greens on top, stick it in the fridge, and then when dinner's ready, all I have to do is toss it all together. By keeping the vinaigrette at the bottom of the bowl and the salad on top, it doesn't get soggy, and it saves you time when it's time to eat. Okay, so now we're going to make our dredging station for the crusted Parmesan chicken. So I have some flour mixed with salt and pepper in one bowl, and then in another bowl, I'm going to crack a couple of eggs, mix that with a few tablespoons of water, and whisk that up. And then in the third bowl, we are going to freshly grate some Parmesan cheese and mix that with some panko breadcrumbs. You could definitely use pre-grated Parmesan cheese. I just had this in my fridge and wanted to use it up, so I grated it on the fine holes of a box grater. You could also process it in your food processor until it was very finely grated. Did you guys catch there? I just gave a little chunk of Parmesan cheese to Murphy. For all of you guys who don't think he gets anything, yes, he gets plenty of treats. I am mixing the Parmesan cheese with the panko breadcrumbs, and next I'm going to start coating my chicken. So I have my flour, egg, and breadcrumb. That is the order in which that goes. And then I have my skillet heating up with just a little bit of olive oil. This recipe is just a shallow fry, so it's definitely not a deep fry. You definitely do not need a ton of oil. So I'm going to take my chicken breast, dip it first in the seasoned flour, then in the egg, and then I'm going to put it into the breadcrumb and kind of push that breadcrumb and Parmesan mixture into the chicken to make sure that it gets coated evenly. And once you pound these chicken breasts out, you're probably only going to have room in your pan for 2 of them, so that's fine. Just fry them 2 at a time, and then I like to just keep a baking rack on a cookie sheet in my oven at a warm temperature, usually around 250 or 300, and then I can place the cooked chicken in there while I'm waiting on the other 2 to cook. So here's what it looks like when it's cooking. Your oil will get brown and discolored just because you have cheese in your breading, and so it's going to crisp onto the bottom of the pan. But mine didn't really burn at all. It cooked just fine, and here I am putting my first batch of chicken into that rack in the oven. So while the second batch of chicken was cooking, I went ahead and tossed my greens. So I'm just tossing together those greens with the dressing. And then the recipe didn't call for this, but since I had some extra Parmesan cheese, I decided to use my vegetable peeler and just shave some on the top, which was totally delicious. And I would definitely recommend doing that if you have some left over as well. So here's what those Parmesan crusted chicken breasts looked like when they were done. This was a real winner. Like I said, I think this is probably my favorite out of this bunch of recipes. I really love the combination of like cold salad with warm chicken. My husband Adam is not a huge fan of that, so he wanted his salad on the side. But either way, it's delicious, and I would definitely recommend this recipe. So I ended up serving it for myself with the salad on the top, but I did make some ravioli on the side with some marinara sauce for my family. So I just had some frozen fresh ravioli that I boiled up, and I tossed it with some marinara sauce. So they had that on the side. And then here is what the chicken looks like with the salad on top. Totally delicious. Definitely recommend trying this. Okay, so next up I'm sharing the lemon and garlic roast chicken, and this is definitely the one I would recommend trying if you want to try a roast chicken recipe. So again, I'm starting with a whole chicken. I do actually like to rinse my chicken off when it's a whole chicken just to make sure that it's clean. It doesn't have any extra goodies on the inside, and it doesn't have any extra feathers on it, because that will happen sometimes with a whole chicken. So I rinse that off, and this time I'm trying a cast iron skillet instead of that big roasting pan, which this actually worked out a lot better. And if you have a cast iron skillet, definitely try it for this. So in this recipe, it calls to stuff the chicken with some fresh thyme, some garlic, and some lemon. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm also going to season the inside of the chicken generously with salt and pepper. I have an herb garden on my back deck, and so I had some sage that I wanted to put in there as well. So I went ahead and added that, but you don't have to add that. Just stuff everything into the cavity, and then we're basically going to follow the same procedure as we did before. So this recipe, instead of olive oil, calls for melted butter. So I melted some butter and I brushed it over the chicken, and then I'm going to season that with salt and pepper. And then I'll go ahead and tie the legs together with some kitchen twine and tuck the wings under. And then we're also going to add some garlic and some lemon to the roasting pan as well. Okay, so I'm just quartering up my lemon and my extra garlic, and I'm going to put that into the bottom of my cast iron skillet just to give it some extra flavor. This makes enough broth in the bottom of the pan to definitely make a gravy with. So if you're serving this with like potatoes or something like that, that would be delicious as well. The last step is to put some bacon on top of the chicken. So who wouldn't like this? It's totally delicious. I would definitely recommend it. So I just have about half a pound of bacon here, and I'm just laying those strips all over the chicken. So here is our little chicken with its bacon blanket. So cute. It's going to go into the oven at 425 degrees for 1 hour. After the hour, you can remove the bacon, roast it for another half hour, and it's done. Here's what it looks like. It's so good. We didn't actually have this for supper. I just roasted it up, and we're going to make chicken salad with it this week. It was so good. Definitely a lot of flavor in that chicken from the melted butter and the bacon. Okay, so next up, I'm going to share this recipe for a skillet roasted lemon chicken. I will tell you that I did modify the kind of chicken that I used in this recipe from the original recipe. The original recipe called for basically a butterflied whole chicken, but again, I'm just not a huge fan of chicken on the bone. I did obviously roast 2 chickens for this particular video, which were really good. I don't prefer it. And so I decided to try this particular recipe with chicken breast. And I have to say, it turned out so good. I would definitely recommend it. So I have my cast iron skillet here. I sliced up a lemon and put that in the bottom. Next, I sliced up an onion and put that in the bottom. Now I'm going to put some chicken breast over the top of that. So I used 5 regular sized chicken breasts, and I'm just placing those over the lemon and the onion in the skillet. And next we're going to make the olive oil mixture that goes on the chicken before we roast it. So I have some fennel seeds and I just have them in a little Ziploc bag. I'm using my meat mallet to crush those. I'm going to put 1/3 cup of olive oil in a measuring cup and add those crushed fennel seeds. This gave the chicken a really great flavor. So it's definitely something that I probably wouldn't have tried on my own. So I'm glad I made this recipe. Next, I have some fresh thyme. Again, I got this out of my herb garden on my back deck. You could definitely use dried thyme, I think, if you don't have fresh thyme. But I'm just going to chop that up and get it added to the olive oil mixture. And then this is what we'll brush over the chicken before we roast it. So I am brushing the herb oil mixture on the chicken breast, seasoning it with salt and pepper, and then I'm just using a fork to turn that over so I can season the other side. I have to tell you, again, I was just so pleasantly surprised by the results of this recipe. You know, sometimes when you roast chicken breast in the oven and it can become kind of dry and tough, this recipe was the exact opposite. It turned out so tender and so good. My kids both polished off their chicken with no complaints. The husband did too, and he doesn't even really like lemon chicken that much, but it was that delicious. So I went ahead and popped that in the oven, and this is going to roast for about 30 minutes at 450 degrees. I'm also making some roasted broccoli and potatoes with this, and I'm going to put a cheese sauce on that. You'll see the finished dish here in a little bit. So after I roasted that for about 30 minutes, I removed it, added some wine, put it back in the oven for 15 minutes, and then here is what it looks like when it's done. So I let it rest, and then I went ahead and sliced it up and put it on a plate with some extra lemon slices. We also had this with some steamed carrots and then with the cheesy broccoli and potatoes. Would definitely recommend this recipe with the chicken breast, and I will definitely be making it again. So to recap, here is what we made in this video. The buttermilk fried chicken, definitely would make again. Engagement roast chicken, probably would not make again. The lemon and garlic roast chicken with the bacon, yes, would definitely make this again. Parmesan chicken, yes, would make this again. And obviously the skillet roasted lemon chicken, yes, I would make this again as well. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you're looking for another video like this, I actually did a video where I cooked the Pioneer Woman's top 10 recipes. So you can click on that on the right hand side of the screen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.